Kia ora, Matt. How are
Kia ora,
you?
Zev. How are you? Very good.
I'm
Very
pretty
good.
good, mate. For those at home who
Yeah,
don't
lovely
know,
to
this
see
is
you.
Matt
Lovely to
King
see you
from
again.
Democracy
Lovely to see
NZ.
you.
You too, my friend. Hey, so what a full-on
No,
day
it's lovely to be
yesterday was with the release of that Fire and Fury documentary. I would love to hear your thoughts and your
oh.
reactions to that film, my friend.
Well, you know what? I echo a lot of what you said. I was pretty disturbed by it, but not surprised. And I looked at what they did and how they put it together, and the cherry picking of some of the people that they put in there, where they just picked some. Sometimes people say things because they're upset or they're angry. They make statements, and we all know that they will never carry them out. They just say things. So they picked out the worst of those people, and they put them up on big, grey-coloured, scary music, sides of buildings. So all the sort of
Yeah.
things that to make it, all those sorts of tricks. And I looked at it and I thought, where is our fair and balanced and unbiased media? I despair of someone like Penfold and what she did. I really do. Yeah. Same thing as you. So I
Yeah, it
felt the
was
same way.
definitely a shocker. Yeah, so you
It was a
mentioned the
hit job.
music.
It
They
was a hit
used
job.
that really
Yeah.
sort of it was really worryful music is the only way I can describe it. And why they would use that in the
Mm,
background, I'm not sure. And the tone of voice that the reporters used throughout the whole thing was very low,
mm.
mundane, sort of negative tone. And then they added all the special effects like the fog and the screens and making it look all dark and mysterious. It hears like
Mm.
it sounds like you picked up on a lot of that as well.
Yes, and I also saw that they interviewed each other, and the people that are on the ironically named Disinformation Project. I thought how the irony in that alone. Government paid for propaganda. They interview themselves, and they claim that as if they're some sort of expert. And I just saw the most unbalanced hit job that I've seen in a while. But you know what, Zeb? I'm not surprised by it. It's just this is what I would expect
No.
no less from them. And for me, it tells me they're scared. They're scared because the truth's coming out.
Yeah. What do you think was their motivation behind it? Just your opinion. Why do you think they did it?
Look, yeah, I think that they're just trying to discredit. They're just trying to discredit the whole movement. Just trying to get the public to believe the propaganda. And it's carefully crafted. That was a deliberate, carefully crafted documentary, and using our taxpayers' money, that journalism fund, public
Yeah.
journalism fund, to pump out the propaganda. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, I don't. You were there down there in Wellington. I was there in Wellington. I saw what went on.
Right.
I talked to all those different people, interviewed all those lovely people, and then right at the tail end, some nasty guys turned up, masked up, angry, that wanted to fight with the cops. But they weren't the protesters. We all know that. They were just people that turn up whenever. Whenever there's a bit of a nasty skirmish, they turn up. I used to be in team policing in South Auckland. I worked in South Auckland team policing in sort of 1996, 97. And we used to deal with, sometimes we'd turn up it would be sort of like an out of control party. And then it would escalate because we turned up and they had a focus, and the nasty buggers would come out of the woodwork, and they were there just to have a rumble with the cops. And I saw those same people on the last day of the protest, and I never saw them the whole time I was there. I saw very few people. I looked at the footage, the close look at the footage over the lives that I saw, and I saw some people that I've never seen before. And then when they sort of portrayed some of the third day of the arrests, around 120 people were arrested. Um, they sort
Mm.
of portrayed the protesters as we were causing trouble, and therefore the police had to move in. And we all know that the protesters were peaceful, and that the police moved in when they shouldn't have,
Absolutely.
against peaceful protesters. And what happened the violence that happened was as a result of those police moving in that day, totally unwarranted, arresting peaceful protesters. So,
Absolutely.
mm,
Yes, that's
it's
right.
scary
I
stuff when
mean,
you
we
see how
we
it can be
can't
portrayed.
expect, for sure. And in the documentary, I noticed there was a select few that were mentioned. Why do you think a lot of others weren't mentioned that were quite obvious sort of big people in the movement? Why do you think they left those sort of people out? Did you notice that?
I, yeah, I did, and I think that they've just selected a few people that they could get some extreme quotes from. So, you know, there was some people in that video that have said some things online that, you know, perhaps they shouldn't have. And in terms of,
Mm,
you know, they took people that weren't even related to the protest from a previous, you know, from some actual criminal acts from years before, and put them into the mix, you know. And they talked about, you know, rivers of filth and white supremacists and all that. And you know what? I was at that protest, and there was a large percentage of people that care about their body autonomy were Maori, and they were in that protest. And I saw no white supremacists or any of this other rubbish. I never saw any of that. I just saw good Kiwis protesting their rights, you know. So
yeah,
when I see a propaganda piece, hit piece by Paula Penfold, is it Paula? Is her name Paula Penfold? I see that, and I see them
yeah,
interviewing each
Paul
other, and
Ripley.
I see the false representations and all the drama and all that. And I said, oh, this is like a Hollywood blockbuster fictional movie,
It did
you know?
have that
So,
sort of feel to it, doesn't it? So, in
yeah.
your opinion, do you think, you know, I'm just looking at the timing of the release of this documentary. Do you think there's any sort of political aspect to the time that they've decided to release this?
Look, all these things don't happen randomly. They happen for a reason,
Mm,
and deliberate timing is everything. And they're just going to try and portray people that are sticking up for their human rights, and basic human rights, as troublemakers and criminals and activists and extremists, when we all know
mm,
that we just want our rights back. You know, we all know that, and we know. I walked through those protests for days, like 4 days I spent there, and I never once felt threatened by anyone there. And there was a whole range of
yeah,
people there from across society and all levels of society, and I never once felt one iota of violence. The only time I saw or felt, um, I guess, um, the fear or the terror sort of thing was when the cops were moving around the place. And the irony of that for me
mm,
is, you know, I used to be a copper, and I just saw big movements of cops around the place designed to deliberately intimidate people. Um, and I was, yeah, I was saddened by it. I'll be honest with you. I was really saddened by it, to see our police being used by our political leaders to intimidate peaceful protesters. I mean, I'll never forget that now. I'll never forget that, those images and that memory.
absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
it's certainly quite hard for me personally to look at the police now in the same sort of light as I did before the protest, because the things that we saw that day just can't be unseen, unfortunately. Um, but moving on, I
Mm.
was just wondering, are you aware of the protest gathering that's meant to be happening at Parliament on the 23rd?
Yes, yes. I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be there for a couple of reasons. But I I do support people. I do support everything behind that. I don't support blocking motorways, and I don't support you know, some of the more activist stuff. But I do absolutely understand it, and I support everyone that's going to go down there and do that. Um, for me, Zeb, I've got this mission I'm on with the Democracy NZ, and we're really, really
Yes.
full on busy. We're trying to get a result the establishment mainstream way, and we're pushing back against this sort of this media propaganda, and it affects us as well, because we're just a fledgling party. We won't get any media coverage at all. And if we did, it will be negative. And I know that and I accept that. So I have to do it the old fashioned way and do the meetings, which I'm doing all over the country and talking to people face to face
Yes, you've been very
and
busy.
obviously
Yeah.
Facebook and yeah. And I rely on the likes of yourselves and Kiwi Voice and the Daily Examiner and all those good people that are out there just getting the truth out, you know. And so we desperately need people like yourselves to be able to speak freely and say what you think without fear of being cancelled or censored, you know. And look, I see people online saying things that I think that I just purely think, oh, look, they should not be saying it. I know they're angry and they're upset, but they shouldn't be saying it because I don't really think they mean it, but also it just doesn't help the cause. But I also see on the other side, I see propaganda being produced using little edited bits from these people to portray us
Yeah.
as a movement as being like that when we all know that we're just, you know, you and I, Zeb, we're just regular people, you know.
Yeah, just noticing something's wrong with what's going on and reporting
Yeah,
on it, calling it out. It has to be called out. It's not right.
yeah, yeah. Well, I spent 24 years of my life in investigations. Like I was a police officer for 14 years and another 10 years as a private investigator. So I spent a lot of my time as an investigator and asking questions and questioning everything. And I've been into a number of crime scenes in my time, and I've seen things where it looked like when you walked in that it was a certain thing had happened, and then once you've done some more inquiry work and some background checks and all that sort of thing, and witnesses, eyewitnesses, you realise you were totally wrong, but you had thought it a certain way. And I
Yeah.
could see how people could see something and they could believe that this is what's happening, but actually it's not. And so I like to deal with facts and evidence. And so I went out there and talked to people like frontline people, like doctors and nurses and undertakers and and victims. And I know what's going on. I know it because I've spoken to the people it's happening to. So you get told something by the
Yeah.
government,
That's
and then
yeah.
you actually know what's happening is totally different, and you know that. And so you go, well, you can't unsee it. You can't undo that. You know that something's going on. So I'm like you, mate. I'm out there saying to people, hey, just ask questions and challenge what you're hearing. And does it smell right? Does it sound right? Does it look right? And then keep asking questions and try and wake everyone up, you know?
Yeah, absolutely right. And hey, are you able to give us a quick update on how Democracy NZ is going? I'm sorry, I get so busy. I haven't kept up. I'm not sure what's happening. Can
Yep.
you just give me the
Sure.
basics? What have I
Okay.
missed?
Yes. Well, what we've done is we very quickly got enough members to register as a party. So we've put our registration documents into the
Awesome.
Electoral Commission. And they are processing it now. And they said that they takes between 8 and 12 weeks because they have to advertise certain things and they have to verify certain things. So they're actually going through our members and I think checking and ringing them and seeing whether they have joined and whether they did pay some money and whether they did sign the document, that sort of thing. So that's just basic protocol for registering. So that's nothing untoward. So we've done that and we're excited about that because we've been going around the country having our public meetings and getting massive amount of support, like fantastic people. Like the people that come to our meetings are really critical thinking, lovely people. I am a bit biased, but I am surprised when I walk into a meeting hall and I see the caliber of the people in the room and I go, wow, look at these people. They're just fantastic, you know. In all my meetings, I've spoke to thousands.
Oh no! Hey guys, it looks like we've lost Matt. One moment, I'll see if I can get him back. I'm not sure what happened there. Really interesting to hear his take on the documentary and what's going on in New Zealand at the moment. One moment, we'll just try and get Matt back. Uno momento, technical difficulties. Right, I'll keep trying to add him back in, but it looks like he may be having some issues with his phone at the moment. But that was a really interesting chat, and it's good to hear that he's still going strong with Democracy NZ and standing with us, not against us. I was quite interested in asking about yesterday we spoke to Judy Martins over in Canada, and Judy Martins mentioned that they're trying to pass a bill in Parliament at the moment, in Congress over in Canada, to basically shut down independent voices like mine on YouTube, on Facebook, and things like that. And I was going to ask Matt about that and what his thoughts might be and how that's sort of progressing through our Parliament here in New Zealand, and whether he thinks it would pass here in New Zealand as well. Kia ora whanau, I'm hearing you ask what documentary. I will put another link to the documentary here. Oh, Matt, you're watching. It doesn't seem to be able to bring you back, but that's okay. So we'll leave it there, whanau. Thank you so much to Matt King for joining us and sharing his thoughts on the Fire and Fury documentary that Stuff has put out. If you haven't watched it yet, give it a watch, but try and remain calm while you do so, whanau. Take care of yourselves. We'll be back a little bit later live streaming with someone else who I'm sure will be a very good interview, and we'll get their opinions on things. So kia ora whanau, ngā mihi nui, ka kite anō.